60 minutes. This is episode 2 of Meeting with a Critic. That's me, and today I'm meeting Helena. Or is it spelled? Is it Helena or Yelena?
It's Yelena.
Yelena. Yeah, I wondered if it was like a silent H or something like that. I'm not great with names. So Yelena, and your surname?
Safronova.
Safronova. Okay, and you're based in New York.
Yes.
And you're from, where are you from originally? Because I sense that you've got a little bit of an accent.
I was born in Latvia, but I grew up here in New York.
Ah, right. Okay. In New York. Nice. So what part of New York?
Brooklyn, South.
Brooklyn. Okay. Okay. Right. Brilliant. Okay. So the format of today is just literally I'll ask you a few questions just because I need to understand where your practice is at and all the rest of it. And then we'll go straight onto your Instagram site to just have a little look through and see, what I can advise, what my comments are, etc., etc. Okay. So do you want to tell me a bit about yourself, about your practice, about, for example, how many hours do you practice? Are you a full-time artist? All this kind of thing, anything that I might, gain some insight into.
I studied art at Fashion Institute of Technology for 4 years. And then I went into graphic design. I design books for children and teens.
Okay.
And some 3 years ago, I really got into illustration and really wanted to get into fine art.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been about 3 years. 2 years since
So how long with regards to your fine art, which is what you refer to, that's on your Instagram site?
Yeah.
Presume, yeah. So how long have you been practicing that kind of art?
About 3 years.
About 3 years, right? Okay, that's interesting to know. Okay, good. Yeah.
I
Okay.
saw the previous video, so you'd say baby steps.
Baby steps. Well, this is it. I mean, I know it's good to sort of. That's why I always ask for a bit of a background. I spoke to Sergi just the other day, and he's been working for 6 years on his stuff. You've been working for 3 years, so 3 years is not a long time. But what you need to do probably in this early stage is to try and learn how to critique your own work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. That's the key thing really for, I think, any artist. You need to know, right? What am I? What have I produced? Is it actually any good when you compare it to, some of the great works in the art, art, I was going to say industry, but art field. And that's really what I'm trying to help artists to do. I don't know if you watched that whole video. It was quite a long video actually with Sergi, but basically the reason why I started this was because I had a friend, and that friend, I observed him taking his work into galleries, and basically the galleries laughing at him behind his back. So as he was walking out of the door, the galleries would be, there would be uncontrollable laughter coming out of them. So I thought to myself, and he used to ask me, what do you think about this? And obviously as a friend, I told him that the work was good, which is what a lot of friends and family do. So now what I'm doing is I'm trying to I'm trying to be an artist friend and trying to sort of help and give honest reviews to artists rather than, sort of lying to them, or, because I think what I find with a lot of artists is once you go down one route and everybody's saying that you're good, it's very confusing.
Yeah.
And it's hard to know if you're actually, is it true or is it not? And then it confuses what you think. And they might say, oh, for example, if you did a picture of an animal, for example, a cat, oh, that's so beautiful, keep doing more of that. Where really, is that really the right thing to be doing if you want to be a great artist? That kind of thing. So you've been painting 3 years. How many hours do you practice a week?
Well, I hope to do it every day, but because I have a job, it's not an everyday thing, unfortunately. Right. And I have more time on weekends, of course.
Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, I understand that. I mean, obviously everybody's got
average, like maybe an hour or two a day, but I would consider that my graphic design work is still, work because it keeps me engaged with composition problems and color problems.
Yeah,
so I'm still thinking in that mode. But as for like specifically drawing, then yeah, like about an hour a day.
Okay, right. Okay. Now, I mean, obviously you are, you're a new artist, but I think one of the things that I always say to everybody, this is one of the key things, is, I mean, to be really good and start to really create work, that you're, you know, very, very happy with. I do think that you need to be pushing on the 20 hours a week as a minimum, but obviously you've got other things going on in your life, and you can still become an able artist, you know, if you use your time wisely. And it's good that you're painting most days or working most days, because at least then you're not kind of having to start afresh, you know, get out of the routine. So working each day is really important. And how do you come across your ideas?
It's just things that I see around me that inspire me.
So you're painting from life or photograph or?
I do take life drawing classes occasionally.
It's really good. Yeah.
I did start with life drawing in art school, so I know it's very important. But yeah, from photos.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, I would always make the distinction with regard. I mean, I get attacked a lot when I tell artists, let's try and stay away from photographs. I mean, some artists, some great artists used to say, stay away from photos, stay away from actually copying anything from life at all, and just using your imagination. But for me, I would definitely say that the problem is with the photo, they're very problematic because they're flat images, and there's not a lot of direction. You can go off on a direction afterwards, but say for example, if you were going to be painting a life model, I mean, I know it's difficult at the moment because of lockdowns and all the rest of it, but you can always paint yourself in the mirror, for example, you know, a portrait picture or what have you, and you'll get more from that, in my opinion, because you're painting something that's real, that's got flesh, whereas where you're painting a photograph, it's just a very, very flat image. So it doesn't give you a lot to work with. And I can often tell, actually, you know, when I go into like sort of student works and things like that, I can always tell, or group exhibitions of artists, like local artists, I can always usually tell, well, that was copied from a photograph, that was copied from life, that, you know, and there is a distinction, you know, to somebody with a kind of a more trained eye. So at the moment, yeah, I don't suppose you're selling much work, are you, or are you?
Well, I've sort of sold a couple of things, but
yeah, okay. So it's ticking along. Well, you're a new artist, so there's no pressure really. I mean, obviously it's nice to sell work, but there's no real pressure to sort of, it's great to put it on Instagram to get feedback. And I think that's really important, because I think also sometimes I think when you see your work on a small image as well, you can kind of you can keep looking at it on your phone, and actually you can start to learn to critique your work, and there might be some that you'll be like, oh, that's got to go because I wasn't really keen on that one. And as you develop, you know, your profile will change. And I mean, obviously you're 3 years in now, and I can guarantee you at 6 years, if you can keep with your practice and increase the time, potentially your work is going to be so much different. You'll probably remove all of that work that's on there at the moment and replace it. Yeah, well, this is the idea, isn't it? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go onto your Instagram site and we'll have a little look and see what we can chat about there. Oh, if I can find it, there it is. Yeah. Okay, let me know when you can see this.
I see it.
Yeah, can you see it? That's great. Okay, so what we've got here is, well, you've got quite a lot of followers. That's really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
More than I've got. But you know, it's not all about the followers. Not many posts. So what's this website? This website is your art, or is it your design?
It's both. Yeah,
Okay.
you can click and scroll through that. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Right. Okay. So if you look at this, there's quite a lot of color. It looks quite interesting. So you've got some kind of portraits. You like figurative. Okay. So there's not a huge amount on there at the moment. So how long, for example, let's click onto one and have a look at it. So how long, for example, would this one take to do? This is this 9 times 9 inches?
Yeah, so this is a small sketch and it took me a couple of hours.
Couple of hours? Right, okay. And that was from so what did you do with the figures? Did you trace those on?
It's from my photo, which I took. So
yeah. You traced those on, did you?
Yeah, I worked out my composition in Photoshop and then I drew it on. Yeah.
Okay, so and just looking at it, so it's paint, right? Okay, so you've got quite a good flow on the paint. and some aspects of it actually I don't mind so much. I mean, I'm not overly keen on the. I mean, it's coming up on my screen quite purple. The face is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's purple. Yeah.
See this area. Can you see my mouse?
Yes, I can see it.
See this kind of. I think this kind of works.
Uh-huh.
This kind of thing here works for me a little bit more than this here. It's very, and this is kind of.
Uh-huh.
How would I say it? It's kind of a. I mean, I know you're only 3 years in, but it's kind of what's the word? Maybe a bit amateur. You know, it's very kind of. But you're exploring still, so it's kind of it is what it is. You know, but I kind of like this kind of this where you've got the kind of the bluey greens. Right, I've got another screen here, so I'm just looking at that. Where you've kind of bluey greens, are kind of like I quite like the distinction between the bluey greens against the face. You see that in a lot of master paintings. You will see where their faces they'll put like a nice strong color against it, so it'll bring it out quite nicely. Okay, interesting. It's a small little sketch and a 2-hour sketch, so it's not a lot of time. You get your work done really quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's have a look what else we've got. Let's just have a flick through. Okay, so this is running. They look like kind of ghostly. So running in Central Park in late August rain, first breath of air, the first 2 minutes of fever. Do you know, I'll tell you something about running, and maybe even something about animals as well. I don't know why I said animals, but it's just, there's two things that I don't think I've seen many great pictures of runners. Have you?
Not that I went out looking for them.
No, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people do sport, and I don't think I've seen a great. I'm just trying to think if I've actually seen. I mean, no doubt somebody will sort of, you know, maybe somebody when I post this video, they'll kind of mention it in the comments. But I don't think I've ever seen a really. I have seen a really good statue of somebody of a runner in a museum, and that was a bronze cast. But I don't think I've ever seen a good picture of running. And maybe it's just that it just doesn't travel well. I don't think you've done a bad job here. Kind of like the effects of the runners, because they're kind of almost like ghostly, they're almost like broken up, aren't they? And your sky is quite interesting as well. It's something to explore, I think. I like the color scheme in the sky, if that is sky, in the background, should I say. Um, the runners, kind of this one here on the right hand side, kind of like how you've kind of just been very minimal in the way that you've selected his face, and it comes out quite well. And I like it because it's kind of like it's almost like an accidental painting, isn't it? You've done it quite quickly. How long did this one take to do?
Oh, because this one is big, it took me forever. And
Oh yes, I see. 30 times 40. Yeah.
yeah, and the background itself is kind of flat, thin layer of paint, and then on top of it, there's a lot of impasto, which was a big experiment for me. So that took me a very long time to come up with. I would scrape it off and go at it again. I'm still not entirely happy with it. I'm thinking about redoing it.
Yeah, well, just redo it. I would definitely think about redoing it. Don't ever worry about painting over something if you're not completely happy with it and starting again or adding to it or something like that, or even changing any aspect of it really. But I mean positives. I quite like the fact that you can see that they're in motion. You know, you can straight away see that they're running. And I think that's quite a skill to actually try and capture that. So you've done there are some good bits to it. I don't think it works really because I don't know. I look at it and I just think it looks a bit, it does look like what it is really. It's like kind of a new artist that's exploring. So I wouldn't be critical about that because obviously I wouldn't say, oh, I want to see perfect images or anything like that because, otherwise I would just be, stunting your growth as an artist. I would just say, just keep exploring with this kind of thing. It's not terrible, but it's just, you can see it's like an exploratory painting sketch almost. And I do think I do think a lot of artists, once you kind of if you're unhappy with something, then maybe, you know, maybe there is, you know, your instincts will tell you if it's right or not over time. But yeah, it's something to work on, definitely. Let's have a look at the next. Let's have a, let me pick out something that's see some of the work, like I'll tell you, I'll go through it. So this one here, this one here is kind of a style that could be explored. There's some aspects of the runners that could be explored. I don't, what's this guy doing here?
That's not my work. It's a repost from somebody. It's
is it? Right, okay. I was going to say, is it like a photograph of your boyfriend or something like that? I don't know. No. I don't know. I don't know. People put all sorts of things on their Instagram site. This one is a painting, is it?
Yes. This one is ink painting. The child.
Okay. Yeah. This one, I don't like the style. I just think, as soon as I see it, I just think, you know, I see a lot of artists doing this, and there was one that I saw the other day that was, he was like one of these, what's one of these kind of show-off artists, you know, like they put a video behind them painting, and they're like, look how great I am, you know, and they're doing all this, they're doing it like a really good, and then he gets this squeegee or something, and he just all the way through his work. And he's like so proud of it, and I kind of laughed. I thought it was a comedy, to be honest. But this is not, I don't think, is a very good method. I mean, it works for, say, for example, who's that abstract artist, the German one that scrapes through his work, Richter? You know, he does a good scrape through. So you could explore it in a different way, but I don't think, I just see so much of this, and for me, this kind of work. Or the overuse of a flat brush. I mean, I know this wasn't a flat brush, it was probably something flat that you've just dragged through a wet paint. It just kind of looks very like, I'm trying to be creative, but I don't know what to do. But you know, again, although I'm critiquing this, I don't want you to stop exploring, because by doing this, you're gonna, you know, you'll feel how the paint moves, and if you want to use that technique at some point further down the line for a background or something like that, it might come into force. But if you don't try things, then obviously it's you know, that's detriment to your practice as well. So, you know, trying it is fine, is good.
It's interesting that you picked on it, because it was the very, very first one that I did in this style. Like, yeah, the very first try at impasto. I like you said, I had no idea what I was doing with it, but I was just trying it out.
Exactly, and that is not actually a negative, is it? I mean, it's okay for me. It's not.
If I from this to the runners, then yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, the contrast is actually quite powerful. You know, you got the orangey kind of yellow. It's quite bright, and it's kind of powerful. Against the black. So I mean, it could be used in another way, but I do see a lot of this over squeegee. You know, I see a lot of artists. Some of them are really good. They could do quite a good picture, and then they're like, look what I'm going to do now. I'm going to get this knife and just completely wreck it. And the thing is, for me, it's like, it's almost, you know, when you squeegee through something or flat. I see a lot of artists, they're just overusing their flat brush. So you've got a big thick flat brush like that, and they're doing dab, cross, up, down, and it just doesn't look, to be very honest with you, it's, for me, it's not working with nature, it's working against nature. You know, it just doesn't fit with my eyes. My eyes and my brain are trying to work it out and go, well, what is the point in that kind of thing? However, it's good to practice and try things out. So, you know, it's not, I'm criticizing the work, but not the practice. Yeah, and I think have you done sort of the same kind of thing on this? You've gone through it with drips and things. See drips. I mean, there are some artists that like to use drip. I'll tell you an artist that does like to use drips. That's actually Tracy Emin. She gets away with it a little bit because her work is very kind of, you know, it's almost like she's doing. Have you seen some of her paintings, Tracy Emin?
No, I don't think so, but I can look her up.
Yeah, look her up, and you'll see some. I think she's not been well at the moment, so I hope she gets well soon. But I think she almost uses like a stick or something, and she puts the paint on very quick. She does a lot of life work and life drawings. But even with her, she was the one that was famous. You might recall she was the one that was famous for having the unmade bed in the gallery. You look her up anyway at some point, but that's her story. She was famous. She became a famous artist because of doing other things, but she is now, well, mostly launching into painting.
Mhm.
However, she, in my opinion, she's still quite a young painter. So she's a lot of some of her work. There is a lot of drip, so she'll be putting stuff on, and then obviously the paint just drips down. I'm not a big. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not a big fan of the drippy stuff. It's kind of overdone, but again, you're exploring, and you have got movement in that picture as well. I mean, the thing is with this, I mean, it's, you've told me about it being from, you know, based on a photograph, and you can kind of, it's very clear that it is as well, because you've got
Oh,
quite
yeah,
a bit of,
they're on bikes, yeah.
yeah, you've got quite a bit of detail, and obviously if you were sitting out in a street on a seat and you were trying to sketch that, that would be quite difficult unless they were still. But it's, you know, it's not, it's not terrible, and you know, I think there's definitely something to work with. And you've got your background as well. You've almost, it's like you were almost developing a style with some of your parts of your work. Like, for example, in the background, you've got that kind of greeny, kind of blue, kind of swirly background, and I think that's quite interesting. You know, it reminds me of some, um, you know, some older artists that have, I'm just trying to remember one of the artists that it reminds me of, but it's quite nice. And then what we got here? So we've got this. So this is definitely from a photograph. So this is Hogwarts and Chud. Is that something to do with Harry Potter?
I don't think, well, maybe the child knows Harry Potter, but he just kind of looked like he could be, you know, in between something very dreamy and maybe great things happening, or
Yeah. This is not bad actually. I have to say this is not bad. I mean, obviously from a photograph, you told me that already anyway. Um, and it's not a bad picture. What size is this? 16 times 20 inches. Now, the only thing that I would say is that when you're doing an unfinished piece, which I quite like unfinished pieces, I mean, looking at this bit of unfinishedness, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of finishes in a weird way. It's almost like that's his arm with a stick coming off it or something. I don't know, but it finishes in a slightly weird way. Is it finished?
It's finished like this. No, I'm not touching it anymore.
Okay. Okay, so that would probably be my thought here. What's this one? Is this the later version or?
No, it's the previous one.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the previous version. Okay, so this is the finished version. Oh yeah, of course. That's the only thing that I would say. Probably it looks. I mean, my eyes are going straight towards this. It looks like he's like got a hook arm or something. But the actual this part of it's not bad. You've actually shaded it quite well. And in fact, when I had a quick look at your profile before we met, I actually did think to myself, so you've gone from this style, which is kind of, you know, based on the kind of classical type of style, and then you go to something like this. And I see it's what's interesting is you get so many likes on it. Why do you think you get so many likes on that, for example?
I
Why?
think people respond to it more because it looks more creative to them. It looks more emotional.
Yeah, but you see how misleading it is when people that don't really understand art comment, and it's hard for you to get, because the thing is, for example, if I made a painting and suddenly I got like 2,000 likes, I'm like, wow, I've made it, you know, I'm Picasso, and but I'm not, you know what I mean, and nor are you. I look at this and I think it's a good effort, you know, it's good effort to explore, but I wouldn't come on here and go, nice work. I like the shape. What's this one say? I like the shape. I like the way the colors break in and out of shape. Very light and just right. So You know, I wouldn't agree with that. And then beautiful, no. Hearts, hearts. Well, that might be just a friend that likes you or something. I love your artwork. It is just so. I think there's a lot of guys here that like you. That's the honest truth. That is the honest truth. Look, look, they're all. You are a great painter. I mean, well, he knows that's not true, but he likes you. Okay, so but you're developing, and I do like. I have to say, joking apart, I do like some of your ideas, and I think some of the ideas could be developed. I mean, you can obviously hold a brush, you know, like this one, for example, and some of the ideas are quite good as well, you know. So I think you just need to continue, and I think if you continue this way, I wouldn't want to say which way to go, because obviously I like this because it's kind of, you know, I think you've done a good job on the face and everything. You know, good attention to detail. But you know, from a photograph, I think most people probably could after a while, you know, sketch and paint somebody up really accurately, because all you need to do is grid it out and you can probably capture exactly what they look like. It's just a copying. It's almost painting by numbers in a way when you're copying from a photograph. It would be interesting to see, you know, if you had a model, what your works would look like then, you know, and that's the, you know, detriment. It's just to see how you progress, because I think the best way to progress, like you were saying about life drawing, I think definitely life drawing is the key to progression. And let's see what else you've got. Yeah, I mean, these are kind of interesting. What are they, watercolors?
They're inks.
Oh, inks, right, okay. So this is quite interesting. Don't part with your beloved. Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting work. None of these are for, like, are these all from photographs? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you've got, you know, you can hold a brush and you are exploring. I just think it's just a time thing, really. And I do think, you know, you're exploring with materials. So you've got your inks, you've got your oils. And that's a sketch. Let's have a look at this. So this is Memories of Edinburgh. So what was this then? This was a sketch from life.
Yeah, just a really quick one.
So so you saw this lady and you were sketching her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's pretty good then, I think. Yeah, that's not bad. Because it's kind of hard when you've got to try and capture somebody really quick, and you've got some good lines in there. So you can obviously sketch, you can obviously paint, but and what's this one here? This is another one. Is this one of yours?
Yes, oh, it's college work, so it's really old.
That's really good. Yeah, I think that's really good. That's a really good picture. And it is kind of like your style is so vastly different from each other. You know, this one's really quite, it's almost accomplished, and then some of the other stuff is just completely, you know, wildly different. So that's quite interesting. So which way are you going to go then? Which way are you going to go? What's your next thoughts?
Well, just for me, what I think is beneficial to me, I will be going both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's important to draw tight, like very lifelike, to learn, and then to draw loosely, to kind of loosen up and, you know, see, because when you copy life directly, it starts becoming very unemotional, and different artists can be doing the same model and it will all look the same, kind of. I don't know if you've seen that kind of academic work.
Well, academic. Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of life drawing sessions, and from my experience, actually, unless you go to a specific like atelier, I've seen, I think everybody paints very differently, or sketches differently. But if you are doing it as a, like, you know, obviously if you were doing it to become absolute perfectionist, then I think, yeah, you're right. Then you'd have to like try and copy the absolute perfection. But you know, it depends where you go. But I think most life drawing sessions around the country, would be, you know, you just literally go in and just, if you want to draw a stick figure, fine, but you know, try and create some art. So this was from a photograph though, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so it's definitely interesting. I mean, there's not many more things on your profile to go through, is there really? So we kind of, we can kind of sum it up really. And I think, like I've said, it's just really a case of taking your work forward. Experimenting with this stuff is fine, because obviously you'll what will happen is you'll end up stumbling on, you know, new ways of working and how something looks good and what have you. I mean, something that I always say to people is, you know, if there is a particular work, like for example, this, I mean, you've obviously still got it on your profile, so you must think it's, you must not know if it's if it's good, if it's not, or what have you. And also you get so many people liking it. I mean, that's 1,372 people liking it. You know, nice paintings. Yeah, that's a touching story. Beautiful. This is good. All these beautiful, intimate, touching, etc.
Well,
And
you
I
have
think,
to read these things. There are definitely some nuggets to pick out, like intimacy. People like seeing intimacy.
yeah, I agree with that. I just think,
Saying nice work is not helpful, but saying what it is that you like about it is helpful.
yes, yeah, that's true. I mean, I mean, if somebody's not, you know, has not been kind of focusing and studying art in the way that I do, you do, etc., they might not actually know. They might just be like, they might like it, which is fine. But obviously, for you to get to the next stage, you know, you're going to have to realize that actually, I mean, this piece of work is not very good. You know, it's very, don't even know how to describe what, I don't know if there's anything on it, to be honest. I mean, it's the only thing that I do like about it is the fact that you are just trying new skills out, you know, and you're freeing yourself, you're messing up, you kind of, you're not copying directly from a photo, you're trying to create some art, and that's the thing that I would definitely encourage. But I just think it's very it's kind of wispy in a way that's very messy. It's kind of, and I don't mean necessarily all art has to be tidy. It's just the fact that the brush strokes and, you know, the way that the dress comes down at the bottom, it's very just like, whoosh, you know, one scoop. And I know it's possible for artists to do that kind of thing, but it just doesn't sit real. It doesn't, you know, if you look through art history and you place this anywhere, it would just, it wouldn't look good in any period. You know, it wouldn't look good against any good artist. And that was one thing that I was going to say is, you know, a good thing to do, you know, when the galleries reopen and museums open, is to take your work and literally have it on a phone or an iPad, even if you can, and just literally go up to some pieces of work that is kind of modern. You know, if you go up to a piece of work like Edvard Munch or anything like that's the artist actually that kind of, some of your swells and your background kind of reminded me a little bit of. Go up to somebody like that, or an artist that you think you were trying to create, and just hold it next to the next to the piece of artwork, and then suddenly you'll be like, all right, okay, so that's why Monk was a great artist, and that's why I've got to keep working. And another thing that I really like about museums, and this is what I advised my friend as well, once we got talking about it, and once he realized that he wasn't very good, is basically you've got to just go in there and be frightened, you know, because they are some of the great artists. And if you go in there, obviously you're spoiled in New York. Once it opens, I mean, the New York galleries and museums, you've got the Met and all sorts of great places. And, you know, just go in there and get scared and just be like, you know, the feeling that you want is you want to walk out of those places and think, I'm never going to be as good as these artists, but then get straight to work on it and slowly edge your work forward, so that when you go back there in a, you know, you visit there, you know, every 6 months or whatever, you're less and less scared. And that's the aim. And then once you get to a stage where you're not really scared of the work anymore, like for if you went into a, you know, modern art gallery and you look at the work and think, well, I'm not worried about that anymore, because I know, I understand the language. I'm making art that is as good. And that's the point of just keep revisiting the masters all the time. And this is what even, you know, even some of the modern type masters like Van Gogh, Picasso, you know, Cézanne, they all used to visit, all used to pay visits to the masters all the time, not just to get ideas, but you know, to look at the, to get close to the paintings, to look at the brushwork, to look at the compositions, to look at the color that they were using, colors next to each other. So color compositions, figurative compositions, you know, abstract works, etc. I mean, the museums are just invaluable source. They're like a library. But it is like I was saying to Sergi in the previous video, it is like a language, and you've got to learn it, and it takes time. But 3 years in, you've got nothing to worry about, because you can. I mean, the main thing is you can hold a brush and you can draw, you know. So I would say overall, I'm actually quite positive actually on this session, because I know that like 3 years in is just in my opinion, is a very new artist. So you know, and you can already paint like that, which is good. You know, I know it's off a photograph, and you got ideas, which is interesting. You're exploring stuff. Some of the ideas that I see though are very what's the word, one dimensional almost. It's like you've got like a, that one's quite interesting because it's kind of an interesting pose of a little girl, but it's kind of like there's nothing that really grabs me and like says, right, because for me art is about, you know, maybe communication or communicating some ideas or something like this. You know, I've got kind of, I mean, there are some artists that kind of communicate, you know, they're just showing a piece of work, but I think great art is communicating ideas. Whereas, you know, there's I mean, I don't, what's this one called? So you've got here some, I don't know what it's called, but it's like, it's basically a lady doing another lady's hair. You've got a bunch of runners, you've got a couple here. That's kind of maybe means something, but there's not a lot of work that kind of means anything, you know. And I think some of the great artists, they, you know, they were widely read. They, you know, they knew about all sorts of things. I mean, you look right back to Da Vinci. You know, he was a scholar as well, and that kind of thing came out in his work. So another thing that, you know, I'd probably propose is that you push, you know, extend your reading, you know, and just really explore loads of different ideas, religions and philosophy and science and, you know, geometry, you know, astrology, astronomy, all that kind of stuff, you know, esoteric stuff. And as you're reading, all things that you're interested in, but not just like one dimensional, maybe like cut through the surface a little bit. And I think the more that you read, the more that you know, the better that your work will become, because you'll have more things that you want to, you'll be like, oh, I've got to share that X, whatever it is, with the people, rather than here's just a picture of a little boy, or here's, I mean, this one's kind of maybe saying something. What is it? A dream. Oh, okay. So this guy's having a dream. He's having a thought, and that's his thought coming out almost. Yeah. See, I don't know. There's a great work by Titian, actually. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where he's got the man and he's got the beast, and they're kind of looking at each other. So this kind of idea has been explored before. Picked up was. So what does it say here? Ready for a group exhibition at the National Arts Club in New York. So what's the National Arts Club then?
Oh, it's just well, we have our galleries and we have our clubs. There's the Salma Gandhi Club that's very famous in New York. I don't know if you've heard.
What's that, sorry?
Salma Gandhi Club.
Okay, no, I've not heard of it.
It's like a club that's for artists of you know, in different dimensions. So actors, playwrights, also painters, designers, you know, everyone all together. There's like a club for them to go and meet and have events, talk, that sort of thing.
Okay, right, it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the thing is really for you is, I like when I look at your work, so when we go through it, which ones do you really like and which ones do you think, or do you think to yourself you need to would you agree with me, or would you say that, oh no, that one's perfect, and or which ones are you really, really happy with and which ones are you not so pleased with and you know that you need to work on? Or is it a case of you're not quite sure how to critique your own work yet? Where are you at?
Well, I don't think I'll ever be perfectly happy with my work because, if I am, then it's time to retire. And
Yeah, that's a good thought, actually. That's a good thought. Yeah, because sometimes I speak to some artists and I'll say, I don't like it, and they'll get very defensive and they'll start arguing with me about it. And I'll explain, right, I don't like this because of this, this, and this. It looks amateur and what. Oh, you don't know anything you're talking about. It's all subjectivity. It's all subject to the viewer and all this rubbish. It's not. I mean, I can see straight away. Usually, I mean, it's sometimes it gets hard when you get to when I meet artists that are at a higher level and then they ask me to review them, then it gets really difficult because they're already quite good, like, and it's very hard to sort of, that's a very difficult thing because then it's a case of trends and whether a gallery would like them, and then it can be a bit subjectivity. But at an early stage, most artists I will be able to critique and say, no, no, it's just not ready yet. Whereas, some artists that are maybe at your level are kind of going out and really marketing it hard, and trying to put their work out. And I actually think that's quite damaging. I think it's good to post stuff out, especially when you get so much attention like this. I mean, 3,400 likes. I mean, that's quite incredible. That's a lot, that's a lot of, people clicking like on it. So it's nice to share it, but I think it's also very important to step back and say, right, okay, I might have got 3,000 likes for this, but actually, is this really a good piece of work? And that's where you've got to try and skill up with your criticism, your internal criticism, and that's when you've actually really got to, do other things that you can put it out, fine, to get comments and what have you, but I just wouldn't want it to lead you in the wrong way, because obviously if it does that and you're just going to stick with this kind of stuff, you're not going to improve. So get down the galleries, get down go and soak up as much of the great masters as you can. I tell you, another thing is really good, but it's going to be tricky at the moment. But I think you would quite enjoy it actually, because you can hold a brush, you can draw quite well, and that is copying the masters. I don't know if they do any programs like that in America, in New York, where you're allowed to go in and actually copy.
Yeah.
That's really valuable. And I'll tell you why, because when you're in front of one of those masterworks and you're staring at it for a day and you're painting it, you're actually soaking up what that artist has gone through. So for example, if you're painting a Titian or something like that, you will actually understand, not 100%, but you will be like, because you're so into it and you're copying it in a detail, you get a more of an understanding of that picture, so that when you're actually looking at it, you'll walk away after painting it for 2 days and you will not 100% understand Titian or whoever it is you're painting, but you'll be like, right, that will soak in, because it's like learning a language, and that will soak into your brain, and you'll be like understanding why you put the blue with the red, and why you put the red to oppose, green and stuff like this, and the balance of the picture and where he put his figures and things like that. And then when you go back to composing your work, whether it's through photos or what have you, you will have a better understanding of, right, okay, what looks good and where the figures should be, for example, or where the things should be, like a still life or what have you, in a picture, to make it look like it's balanced. And I don't mean balance like everything's got it, you've got to have one figure here, one figure here, but it's more a case of balance, as in, like, when I look at it, or whoever looks at it, or a gallerist looks at it or something like that, straight away they're like, wow, that's just, because they all know, good gallerists will generally know, oh, that's a great piece of, work, it's well balanced, its colors work, and and ultimately, somebody may want it for their wall, and they'll be like, wow, that's going to fit well on my wall because it just looks right, and that's the aim. but no, it's been really interesting talking to you and having a look at your work. And I think I'll keep an eye on your progress, because I think over time you're going to add more pieces up here, aren't you? And then just try and, you know, fit as much in as you possibly can, as much time as you can, and see how it progresses.
Like
That's what I would say. Yeah.
I can't promise you that you'll like the stuff that I put up.
Well,
There's definitely more.
if it's good, then I will, yeah, I will like it, you know. Let me just click off that for a moment. If, yeah, if it's good, then
May I ask, which contemporary living artists do you like at the moment?
oh gosh, there is quite a lot, and as I mentioned before, hold on, let me just take this off. Yeah, there's quite a lot. I mean, the thing is, for me, I mean, my real interest at the moment is talking to people like yourself, because I think there's a lot that I can kind of guide you towards. And, you know, my criticism really is like, it's not really to tell you that you're bad. It's just to kind of guide you and say, right, this is where you can move. But the artists that I like, contemporary artists, there's so many. I mean, if I look around at a lot of the universities and, you know, the Royal College of Art, and, you know, not just students, but you know, various other people, you see, I do see so much good work online, but I don't specifically have like one, you know, and that I can say. I mean, like for example, I like a lot of Tracy Emin's paintings. I think they're really good. But I don't have any particular follow. You know, I'll go to a museum or a gallery or something. I'll be like, I like that, but I won't be like, that's my favorite artist or anything like that. It would just be like, I like that piece of work, but I might not like his next piece of work. You know, so I don't really have a piece of an artist that I'm really, you know, is my favorite. But if I look online, I can tell you the work that I like straight away. Yeah, so I'll be able to see it. And if somebody sends me work to review and I see it, I'll just know straight away I like it. However, it's quite difficult online. The reason being it's difficult online is because I can't see the texture of the paint.
Yeah.
So it's even including yours. I don't, it's very hard, because there are some artists, when I look and I see the work online and then I see it in real life and I'm like really disappointed, because I don't like the way that they've painted it. I don't like the way they've applied the paint. It just looks really cheesy and it looks very fake, and they might have put some of this gloss on it or something like this. So, and that's another reason why I would probably say go and check out the museums, because the museums, you'll just see there's a whole new dimension that you will see. For example, when you look at some of the great arts, you'll see the texture that they put the paint on. Whereas, you know, when you see a flat image online, it's very difficult to see. But yeah, but so there are, I think the issue really is at the moment is there are just so many good artists out there, but they hit a certain level and they don't get past that level. And that's tricky. That's really hard. But you know, who knows what the future will, like in 100 years, who knows who they'll say are the best artists, you know? It's difficult to know, but you know, you could be one of them, but you just got to work at it.
Definitely, for sure. And you've been very helpful. Thank you so much for your input.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You've been very honest, and I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll keep an eye. I'll keep an eye with your progress. I'll look at any works come up, and if you know, if you want me to comment privately or what have you, I can tell you straight. You know, and I think just beware of many likes on your images, because I think that you know, people are kind and people do like, you know, you could make a nice colorful work and people would say nice things about it, but to take you to the next level, I think what you need to do is just upskill your internal criticism. It is quite hard actually, and it will take a bit of time, because my friend that I was telling you about, it took him quite a few years to actually accept that he wasn't actually very good, and the pieces of work that he was taking into galleries weren't good enough. So, but it does take a while to accept that, because, but then once you crack through and you start understanding, you know, whether your work is good or not, then suddenly you start to grow your work and it starts to expand, and you'll probably end up doing more hours. The better you get, the more hours you'll do, and then you'll start potentially, once your work does become genuinely good, then you'll start getting some interest from galleries and what have you, you know. So good luck with it, and I'll keep a track on your progress, and I'll share people your Instagram name as well so they can follow you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank
That's
you.
no problem. I will stop recording now and speak to you soon.
Sure. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.